Welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast, hosted by Mhkeeba
and Brittany, two former NFL cheerleaders discussing hot topics in the pro cheerleading industry
and revealing the truth behind the poms. Welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. This is the season 2 launch.
Woo! Yay!
This is Mhkeeba, the sassy and classy, but not so sassy this season, Mhkeeba.
This is basic ginger beast Brittany here, okay?
We missed doing this, you guys. We're a little rusty. We had to dust off some cobwebs. But we've been so busy, though, because we've been planning for this launch, season 2. We have so many exciting things coming up this season, like we can't even handle it.
I'm really excited for what they're about to listen to. Okay. It is so good.
Please break it down.
Break it down.
I know. It was your idea, though.
Just, we wanted the guys' perspective. We found that we have quite a few male fans that are listening to the podcast, and they have a lot to say to us privately. All good things, of course, but we were like, wow, this could be a really good episode to hear from the guys.
And boy, do you guys have a treat in store for you. We loved all the guys that participated. Thank you so much. We're going to drop that interview shortly. But let's tell them what we're doing for season 2, because there's honestly so much going on. What are we doing next week?
Next week, we are flying to Orlando because we're going to go to Pro Bowl.
We are going to document these wonderful ladies' journey at the Pro
Bowl. Because you said, this is like the Super Bowl for the cheerleaders. Why wouldn't we be there as the Pro Cheerleading Podcast? It just makes sense.
Exactly. So we're there to just enjoy it as a fan. When we think about it, when we've gone to the Super Bowl, we didn't get to do much of anything.
You're so busy.
Because we're so busy. So I want to just do the whole fan experience. Go to the autograph signings, watch the girls perform. Because, out of curiosity, haven't you wanted to, see what happens at Pro Bowl a little bit behind the scenes? And when you look on YouTube for videos of the girls dancing, there's very little. So We're going to document the moment. What else are we doing?
We are going to go to Portland for a Winterhawks game, which is the Portland's hockey team.
Yes.
And they have a dance team called the Rosebuds.
I can't wait for that.
We actually danced with one of the current dancers there.
That's true.
So she was a Seagal for a few years and on a Trailblazers. Yeah, just one season with us.
But also the Blazers. So we're excited to see them perform.
Yeah, that's super cool because they dance on ice. Can you believe that?
I need to see this. Cannot wait to see. So we're obviously covering all 3 sports. There are a couple more sports actually. There's plenty more sports actually that you have cheerleaders, but we want to cover them all. And then we're going to a Trailblazers game, because we got to interview the Trailblazers coach. So that's cool. An interview that's coming up. We're also interviewing a former NBA dancer that was selected for All-Star game. And so we're going to kind of get the All-Star versus Pro Bowl type comparison from that interview. What else are we doing?
A lot of interviews, though. I feel like interviews last season were really fun to do and just get different perspectives and stories. And
yes.
Our 2 interviews were Lindsay and Roisha, right?
Right.
So that was really
Mickey.
fun.
Mickey was our very
Mickey,
first
that's
one.
right.
So it's going to be exciting to just have that many on the rosters already. We're busy. And it won't be just us talking all the time, even though clearly I don't have a problem running my mouth. But like you said, getting more perspectives, and hopefully people will, use the hotline and participate in the discussion, because we have way more topics that we're covering this season, and We Dem Boys is the best way to pop it off.
For sure. We already have some people talking to us on social media, huh, Mhkeeba?
Oh, the little shit talker.
Hey, you haven't really made it until you have a hater, right?
Yes, somebody was on our Instagram page and doing a lot of back and forth on the Bitch Better Have My Money episode, and about they shouldn't do it, and if they're going to complain about what they're getting paid. And
not even complain. They said, don't do it if you're going to whine about it afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I hope they understand that we cover a lot more topics than just our pay. But yeah, we were talking about it.
Yeah, I just had to jump in there a little bit, but I'm working on myself. I'm going to start taking some what do you need to take to calm your behind down? But
Adderall or something.
But it was fun. He stopped talking after I jumped in there.
But not even that. We appreciate the good and the bad, because honestly, push back on us, tell us what you want us to change or different, spout off on us on our hotline. Just go for it. We want to hear
we
from you.
welcome it.
Yeah.
Just come knowing your facts and we'll appreciate the dialogue. I'm kidding. I'm really nice. I really am. But let's just get right into that episode. Are you ready to?
I'm ready.
Okay. We hope you are too. We'll see you on the other side. Let's kick it off with, we have two Anthonys, technically.
Mhm.
So let's start off with Anthony. We can't say Anthony 1 and Anthony 2. Anthony from Atlanta. Well, not really from Atlanta either. He's from
Seattle, but in Atlanta.
It's so hard, but he lives in Atlanta now. I've known Anthony for quite some time. Anthony, say what's up.
Hey, what's up? It's Anthony from Atlanta. Glad to be here.
Scratchy voice, Anthony. No, I'm kidding. Thank you for joining us. I know it's late there. We promise not to have you up all night. Okay, moving on.
Some local boys. We have Andrew. He's been one of my best friends for 8 years, and he was in my wedding. So say hi, Andrew.
Hey, happy to be here and super excited.
Yay. Yay. Then we have the other Anthony, which I married him 6 months ago.
Yes.
Say hi, Anthony.
Hello, everyone.
And last we have Nate, which is Anthony's old roommate. Anthony from Seattle, my husband Anthony. His old roommate, and just really smart and funny guy, Nate.
Hi. Thank you.
Nate the Great.
Starting with a compliment. I like that.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Everybody. We have to start with Cheer Chat, though, guys, okay? So feel free to chime in if you want to.
True, yeah.
We came up with what we call Wonder Woman Wednesday, right? You know how there's like Women Crush Wednesday or whatever, and Wow Women Wednesday, blah, blah, blah. Wednesday Wisdom, I don't know. We wanted to have our own way of shouting out girls that are on teams that stand out, maybe kind of like the unsung hero of their squad. And we picked 2 so far.
Yep, we've had 2 Wonder Women Wednesdays.
Yeah.
The first one we kind of cheated because it was our old teammate Kelsey P, who's like has a 6-pack and she's just gorgeous.
She's a fitness guru. She's been on like every calendar cover, back cover, centerfold. I'm sure you guys want to see what she looks like, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
Anthony, you have all the calendars at
I
home.
have
You
6
know.
calendars at home.
Is this the Kelsey that I know?
Yeah, it is the one you know.
Oh, so you know.
We're talking about
we go to
Kelsey.
the same gym.
Yeah,
Or
see?
went to the same gym.
See?
There we go.
Yeah.
Small world.
Mm-hmm.
But she's awesome, right? She deserves Wonder Woman Wednesday.
Yeah. 8 seasons on the team. She was a squad leader this year. We just figured, why not give her the first honor? And last week we did, or is it this week? God, what did we do?
Yeah, this week we did Lee from...
There is a cheerleader Lee from the Redskins. And, you know, just for the record, and this is why we're talking about it for Cheer Chat, okay, the bios for cheerleaders on these websites are so... I won't say they're lame.
They're basic.
They're so basic that finding like something interesting to pull out to like really shout the women out has been very, very difficult. It's like finding a diamond in the rough, but I found one.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
You did.
So Lee, she's a 5th-year veteran on the squad, and when she made the team on her 4th season, she made it 8 weeks after having her baby.
Oh, wow.
So,
And this wasn't her first, I mean, I don't know if it matters which number, but it wasn't her, like, 3rd or 4th kid.
no.
Oh.
Oh. Where'd you hear that?
It was her 10th child, 10 days after giving birth.
It was her first, but still, I mean, I know you have like a little bit of a snapback factor after you're having your first.
Like I said,
child.
pinky in the brain, okay?
Yeah.
I just, like, I read that wrong. I need to read sentences. I saw 4, you know,
Oh, gotcha,
8
gotcha.
weeks. I was like, oh, her 4th child, 8 weeks after. Okay, got it.
Ew, it's okay.
Okay.
One
Good thing the
child-
guys are doing this episode because I'm out.
We're a little rusty. It's
Yeah, a
okay.
little rusty.
You know, it's been a few, I don't know, whatever.
So just her one and only.
One and only
Got
first
it.
child, you have a little bit of a snapback factor when you have a kid, right? Like your first one, typically, you can kind
Who
of
are you
bounce
talking
back.
to, right?
Oh, so guys are like, what are you, okay, so no. Brittany, there will be a snapback factor
Okay.
after your first child.
Got
Even
it.
women out
Noted.
there, it tends to happen, but to do anything 8 weeks after giving birth is crazy because if you imagine 9 months of being pregnant, you can't like practice, exercise too much. You can't do
Right.
too much. You're 9 months pregnant, you know. What are you going to do to prepare for auditions? And so to do it within 8 weeks when you're like, there's so much going on with your body. Let's just put it that way. I'll spare the guys because they're probably going to start throwing up. Anyway, She did it, and I think that was definitely, I think it was super, super impressive. She's gorgeous, she's fit, she's been balancing. I mean, her son is 2 now, and so she got the second Wonder Woman.
Just got married too, I noticed.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. We're such stalkers, aren't we?
I know we are.
But it kind of requires stalking to get to know some of these ladies, and so we thought we would say for Cheer Chat that we need some help and some crowd participation points. So you guys know your teammates better than anyone. And you know those little details that are not on the website, so please help us and nominate your homie, man. Mm-hmm. Like who's hot on, not hot, but like who's great on
your
team.
Who's an unsung hero that doesn't get called out for the good stuff enough.
But they do, and it might be their job, it might be their nonprofit work, it could be something. It could be whatever you want it to be. But hit us up, let us know. You guys ready for We Them Boys? I'm ready. Who's ready? I'm ready. Okay.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Cheer Chat's over.
We Them Boys.
All right, guys. Let's just start with the main question or feedback that we've been seeing online from some of the guys. Like, nobody pays attention to the cheerleaders anyway. They're just like, we saw decorations. We saw, like, basically that were pointless, right? Mm-hmm. So the first question of order is, how much do you guys pay attention to the girls performing on the sidelines when you go to a game? Whether that be basketball, football. Don't all jump at once, but I'll call on you like a teacher.
Well, I will say a really controversial statement right now.
Okay.
And that is, I don't like sports. And I am only into this because of Brittany and Mhkeeba.
Okay.
With being Seagulls. So this is my first real time into it, and I never really watched football, but I would watch it for the cheerleading.
Okay.
To support you guys. So that's my main focus when I watch it. Right,
so you are supporting and watching? For
sure. Well, okay. Yeah, you guys. The football, no.
Okay.
But the dancing, I love dancing. So.
Okay. I appreciate that. We do appreciate that because not everybody. Anthony's shaking his head. So
yeah, no, I'll be honest. I watch football, and I'll be honest. I pay very little attention to the cheerleaders. I'm there to watch the game, and I glimpse at my fantasy stats to make sure my team's doing okay. And, but obviously, when you keep, when you are on the team, I paid a little bit more attention and had an appreciation for the technical aspects of it. But yeah, prior to it, just wasn't something I thought about. I wasn't against it, but wasn't something that made a huge difference in me enjoying the football game or any sporting event I intended to go to.
Okay.
So I'd say from my perspective, it's definitely interesting that like on TV as a fan, it's very different from being at the game as a fan. So when you're watching on TV, I'm sure you've noticed when you watch the games, they really don't show the cheerleaders at all. Maybe for like a 1-second snippet, and you'd be like, oh no, I don't really know that person. So
or they're getting plowed into by the players, so it's funny. Because,
or dancing with the players. Side by side, they had that whole Richard Sherman thing with whoever that was. So it's very interesting from a fan's perspective because the majority of people, let's face it, are watching on TV. So they don't really see live what you girls are doing on the field, for the entire game. So that part's interesting. But then if you look at, okay, you're actually there as a fan, I'll be honest, before, I think I started going when you joined the team. Mm-hmm. And I think as a fan, now that you're no longer on the team, you don't really watch as much. During like quarter changes or halftime, there's a big come out or big performance. That's definitely like the main focus because that's, during a break. But during the actual game, it's kind of an afterthought.
So our sideline dances, you're not really paying attention to. It's more like the big features when the players aren't on the field.
Exactly, and I'd say the common fan is probably the same because they're focused on the game or your fantasy stats, checking up on things. So it's definitely interesting, when you're on the team or someone on the team watching and seeing what they're doing versus you no longer being on the team and then also watching from home is completely different. Mm-hmm. I actually wish they would show more of it on TV, so you could spot people that or get the appreciation for that. Or think about how many times, too, like you'll be doing a routine full out and they cut the music before you're even done. It's
that's true. It's like, thanks a lot.
You didn't even get to finish. Mm-hmm. So I get frustrated a lot watching you during that.
Interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, honestly, without a vested interest necessarily. You know, I'm a couple degrees away every time. My friend is married to a Seagal kind of thing. You know, I'm not saying that Brittany and I wouldn't consider each other friends, because I think if we saw each other alone, you know, we'd both be like, yeah, that's my friend.
Yeah.
But I just I've never felt like that was the main focus at a football game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you go to a basketball game or a hockey game, I think that the crowd is so much closer that they can draw a lot more attention straight to the middle. And if that's how they frame it, then you're going to have more attention on it. And I think that that's where you're going to get the majority of your viewership.
Dang.
That's a good point. Yeah,
That is
because
how-
mostly basketball and hockey arenas are a lot smaller and condensed.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true.
So I never thought about it like that. Good
And you're
point,
talking
Nate.
about like a 70,000 person stadium, and you know the seats are super far back from the field or super high up from the field, so we look like ants for the most part out there too.
I would be curious too to see like how other teams allow their cheerleaders to perform. Because if you think about all we've seen, or at least I've seen, is the Seahawks and the Seagals. So you guys get your come out, you get your 2-minute warning or halftime dance, and then the other one at the end of the game. Some teams, I'd be curious if they even get that. You know?
Can you describe a come out from a fan perspective? What does that mean?
Yeah, so coming out for me, I mean, it's kind of like when you think of your football players coming out of the tunnel and the Flames or the Water Jets or whatever your team has. The Seagulls, right before that, the announcer comes on and says, and now, introducing the Seagulls. And they'll come out and there'll be a song. It's usually always the same song first, and then there's like another song that you come out to, and they just do a full-out routine in front of the fans. So it's kind of like a big deal. Like everyone's like, oh, the game's about to start. Not everyone's in their seats at that point, but a lot of people are.
Yeah.
And, you girls do your big performance, and that's one of the biggest ones of the game. And then you line up, and then all the players come out after that, from what I remember. And then there's like the national anthem, and then game starts.
Yeah. No, but to your point, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys stadium, I still haven't been there, but it sounds fabulous. And their whole stadium is actually designed, one with a killer, humongous, ridiculous big screen. And then, but they also have platforms like throughout the stands where the girls actually are like dancing, maybe, I don't know, a few feet from stands, because they're actually the platform is part of the stadium, which sounds so hype. I would die.
Cool.
I would die. I would have so much fun performing closer to the fans like that. But
I've mentioned that a couple times. It'd be cool. Our stadium's huge, so being able to go into the crowd and like interact, not directly, but like being closer would be cool.
Nice.
Or like
we tried to come out.
Yeah, do you remember that game that we walked through the fans onto the field and then tried to get into formation to dance? It was really bad. We only did it once.
Yeah, it didn't work so smoothly.
I got a question for you. Do they ever profile any of the girls on the team? Do they ever like put up their like a headshot and some things about them or anything on like a big screen?
They
At the game.
No.
Sometimes they'll have like a calendar promotion video, which will just be like flashes of girls and like buy the calendar. But we did notice in the game day book, which unless you're in a suite or higher level, you have to buy. But they would feature 3 girls per game. And before, in previous years, they would like give a little background, kind of that generic 5th year, I'm, doing this. I went to school here. Now they don't even have that. It's just a full, like 3 panel of girls.
Yeah.
And it's like, doesn't even say their name. I think it says their name, but that's it. So it's almost like.
But you were asking, like, too, like the other teams have, like, they call it either a cheerleader of the game, and so the camera will focus on them, and I think they are on the big screen a little bit to kind of feature a cheerleader. So I think it totally depends on how each team organizes their game day entertainment, and some have more of a focus or feature on the cheerleaders and others don't. And I would say we probably are on the side of more like don't. I don't even think we have big screen moments. Well, maybe not, because I'm watching the girls, not the big screen, but it just seems like there isn't as big of a focus.
So my question revolving around, there are 24 girls on the team or so.
24 to 32.
24 to 32.
Sometimes 40 for some other teams.
Wow, that's a lot. You could feature 3 to 4 girls per game kind of thing, put them up on the screen. Because I feel like you could engage the fans more to watch the cheer performances and to be more engaged with that part of the game if you let them have a little more information. But you could pick favorites kind of thing. You'd be like, oh,
that's my favorite.
That's my favorite.
Right.
I'd like to see her dance. Now I know that she went to Purdue.
Right.
Whatever it is.
That's a great point.
I think that'd be a good way to like celebrate them so that so many people weren't always like, what is the point of having them? Like, okay, let's make there be a point. Let's, showcase them and give them more of like a quote, voice per se.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Even if they showed like our stupid, they're not stupid, I'm sorry. What if they like just showed our, I hated recording them, that's why I call them stupid. The video bios, but they could even just show that, and like you said, just pick a few girls and then just show the video bios up on the big screen during a dead point in the game. And that would be a way for people to kind of, like you said, connect with the girls, get to know them a little bit. Because I feel like in prior years, maybe I was just naive, but like rookie year and the second year I made it back, it seemed like people had a good sense of the characters on the team. Like they knew who certain people were. They had their favorites, whether that was like from community activities or like maybe just seeing them all the time, or I don't know, but they felt like they knew who we were more than like the
We've been hearing
years.
that from fans. They're like, we don't know anybody on the team anymore. Like what you're saying, Andrew, it doesn't really you don't get to know the girls as much as previous years, I think.
Missed opportunity number one. No, just kidding. No, this is all pretty awesome. So there's a consensus that unless you're dating one or you know of one, you probably
don't care.
Don't care.
So what's better? What should go first? I was gonna say, what is that saying where it's like marry, kill, F?
Oh gosh, what?
It's not something I've ever heard.
No, I was gonna say the mascot, the cheerleaders, and Blue Thunder.
What's Blue Thunder?
Exactly. Okay, cut that out. Next question.
Wait, well, what would make you guys? So we covered. Damn it, Brittany.
I don't want to cut that out. Let's play.
Oh, you want to play?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Cut Blue Thunder.
Well, I feel like that would. No one's gonna F the mascot.
Some people might be into that.
Right?
Oh,
Look,
Anthony from Atlanta is like, what are we doing? This is a mature podcast.
Stay focused. Okay. So the question was, in addition to maybe having more of an opportunity to get to know the girls, what would make you want to watch the girls? Would it be this music that makes you like pay attention? Is there anything that could be done? Is there any dance move where you'd be like, oh, let me look? Or is it just the same answer?
It would have to be the same answer. I think the best thing would be to, do some sort of introduction. Again, if I did not know anyone on the team, I would have paid no attention to it. I'm there for the football. Again, and I think the best point was just the geometry of the football field. It's huge. There's a lot going on. And, you guys, I think you said you break yourselves up into quarters on the edges of the field. If I remember right, it's been a while since I've been to a Seahawks game.
Yeah, no, we're in the corner.
Yeah, so if you're busy watching the game, you may see what's going on in front of you. You may get an idea of those girls who were in there before you rotate. But again, if you don't make an overt, action to try to engage people, to let them know, hey, this is part of the game as well, or this is part of your experience, no one's going to make the effort to look at it. They're just going to sit there and watch the game.
Has he been to a Falcons game?
Yeah. Anthony, tell us about the Falcons game experience. Is it the same thing?
The last time I went to Falcons games was when the Seahawks were here, and I paid them no attention. I was there because
aren't these big booty girls? You didn't pay any attention.
Oh, yeah, I could say that they were pretty, but I'm there cheering on my Seahawks.
Okay.
I got a question though. Hey, did you go into the stadium and they had really good concession prices? Because I heard that Atlanta stadiums are real good for that.
Yeah. Nah, man, I pre-partied before I got down there. I was already pretty faded by the time I walked in there.
So let's talk about soft pretzels, man.
Oh my goodness. And is there any interaction before the game with cheerleaders? Are they in the concourse area? Anything
Nope,
like that?
There's nothing like that.
Oh, okay. I mean, another interaction with the fans potentially is when we sell calendars before the game starts. But if there's nothing like that either, then all right.
But again, like me, you know me, I'm pretty focused. I'm there. I was like, all right, this is my
yeah.
It's me. I'm going to get on that spot.
Anthony is an engineer, like a civil engineer, and he's all about the business. He's going to keep us on task tonight. Is that right?
Right.
Well, the next topic, and this is all good feedback, so thank you, everybody. We've got some juicy. We're going to have a debrief on all this stuff. Are you feeling some kind of way? A little bit? No.
I was over here like, sex, marry, kill. That's it.
But we're going to pivot a little bit to a more serious topic, maybe, right? What's our next topic?
The 49er cheerleader kneeling for the national anthem. Did you guys all catch that, an image of it, or see it at all?
Yeah.
Did you know about it before we?
Yeah,
Okay,
I did know about it, but I feel like the media coverage was pretty shallow. I've got a little note I took because I looked it up because I wanted to be well informed on it, and I couldn't find much as far as substance goes.
Yeah.
There was basically just like a brief article saying this is what happened, this is what she did, and then they showed her meeting the cheerleader stats or the information, the stuff you were talking about earlier. It was laughably shallow. It was like her favorite song is this, and her favorite holiday is Halloween. I'm like, that doesn't.
That article.
How can you talk about that when we're talking about racial injustice and police brutality?
Right.
How can that be what you focus on? It totally defeats the purpose of what she was doing. And I thought that was not only disrespectful, but I think it defeated the purpose.
No, so it just feels good to hear guys say this because
we're the players for this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we covered the episode Shut Up and Dance, we were talking about just the dynamics when you're on a team and how difficult it is to speak up about pretty much kind of anything. I mean, depending on the team, right? You might have really open leadership or there may be access to the front office or ways to kind of bring up issues, but for the most part, there is a little bit of a code of silence. And so for her to take that act and do something that huge and for the media to pick up on the blip because it obviously, the picture went viral, but to not really discuss the heart of the issue. She may have been on a gag order from the minute she done it. Like, you're not doing any interviews. You're not allowed to speak to the press at all. You did your little thing. Now shut up for the rest of the season. She could have been kneeling every game after that. We don't know because nobody's covering it. So it's really frustrating because she, I'm sure, had a very clear purpose in mind. But I'm curious what her experience was built as part of the team and just in general because the media obviously has ways of changing the focus of the conversation or silencing dialogue. And we just wanted to open up to you guys to hear your thoughts on what you would have done if you saw that in person with somebody.
I mean, I would have applauded her. My opinion. The first time I even heard about it was from your guys' podcast episode on it last season. And I even tried to look it up just as recently as today to see if there was any more information because I was curious if she was able to talk about it. And same thing, I think I saw the same article that you did. And it was just crazy to not see any mention of any updates on it. And it's really disheartening, especially with where we're at with our social climate. Not trying to get too deep into that, but just to not see anything about it, it was ridiculous, I feel like. So it's a shame that there wasn't more coverage. And I would like to know, same, if she kept, kneeling with every other game. But,
or if she makes the team next year, which would be at least a sign that she's not being punished for it.
So do we know, was she still on the team the entire season?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But, auditions happen every year, and ideally, if she auditions, she'll make the team based on, obviously, what qualified her to make the team in the first place. But that is a way, I think, if you cause waves, that's a nice, easy way of getting rid of people, is you don't make it back. I hope that's not what happens for her, but it's something that could.
We'll keep an eye on it.
I feel like, I don't know, my opinion on that is if she wasn't, brought back, that could speak volumes more. So if they're smart,
they'll bring her back.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll get Colin Kaepernick. Just get blacklisted from every cheerleading
team.
That happens.
Well, to my understanding, she did it one game, and nobody could figure out who it was because there was no picture taken of her the first time, only fan pictures. And then the second game that she did it, that's when she got actual media exposure, and they could pinpoint her name is Kayla Morris, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of who's that girl at first.
Yeah.
We were trying hard to figure out who it was because it was taken from the back. So we were kind of going through the roster, who's got a hairstyle like that, and
it's funny you say that because in the article it said this, however old she is, brunette. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything?
Right, that's true.
What does that have to do with anything? And I mean,
diversity of hair color is what I like to call it. I mean, that's for some people, that's the mindset is blonde, brunette, and redhead when you talk about cheerleaders, which is ridiculous, but that's a reference point.
For photos and everything.
I mean, you're easier to spot on the field.
That's true.
Hair color's how I found you.
That's true. What do you say, Anthony?
The media was obviously really, shallow on it. And I hope she does make it back again. It was something similar down here in Georgia not too long ago, right before, right at the beginning of the season in college football.
College girls, we covered
girls down here took a knee, but they were asked not to return to the team. We're down here in Georgia. It's completely different than being in Seattle, Washington, or anywhere along the West Coast. And they took a totally different tack to it. They just said, we don't want you on our team if you're going to do this. And, those girls, I think they're still trying to fight it out in court. I haven't heard about it for some time, but.
Yeah, we covered them as well. Yeah. Well, one of them did for sure. She made it onto The View and was kind of talking about her experience. But yeah, I think one of them made it back onto the team, but the rest of them didn't. And one ended up bringing a lawsuit against. But what was the public, general?
Well, it depends on where you are. You're inside the city of Atlanta, hey, that's, it's probably pretty good because Atlanta's a different city outside the rest of the state of Georgia. But where this took place was just outside the city. So, you got a different feeling if you were living up there and they were like, oh, no, we can't have that. We support our military. I don't even want to get totally into the conversation. All the arguments for and against it. But, nonetheless, as a college student, these girls have a little bit, ladies, let me not call them girls and be disrespectful. They have more of a voice, as opposed to, the NFL cheerleaders. You really see nothing but scrubbed down versions of whatever you guys say. I have no idea what any of you think outside of, go Seahawks or go whatever team. It's real though. You guys are, they're kind of these, sanitized versions of people. You don't get to really say what you really feel. So, young lady from the 49ers, you have no idea what she feels. She took a knee. You probably have an understanding of what she's doing it for, but, she never really got to talk about it. The media is not going to, even if the media wanted to ask her, you're right. She probably got marching orders from the team. All right, you did this, but, we need you to say this now.
Yeah.
It's interesting because part of me wonders if there wasn't a lot of coverage because this was such a big issue last season. Like not the season we're in right now, but the last football season. It was huge. And teams had to figure out how to handle that situation and address it. Now this is kind of after the fact, and now she did that. So part of me is wondering if she was kind of silenced and there wasn't a lot of coverage because now it's not in that wave of this being a topic, or because maybe the cheerleaders don't get the same kind of coverage that the players do, right? I'm kind of curious as to why there wasn't a lot of coverage about it.
Yeah, we were kind of curious, and this is why we're so happy that you guys are all here, just to hear the guys' perspective, because at any given point, especially between, Kayla kneeling and, the article coming out about the injustice in the NBA, there's so many opportunities with all the rosters out there for one man to speak up, to say something in support of Kayla or anybody that's just about the injustice, right? And it's just been crickets from the guys, and I'm like, whoa, wow, okay. I mean, granted, there's been dissension even amongst the NFL players on kneeling. Remember when the players' little fund was created as a compromise between the NFL?
He was not feeling it.
Yeah. So basically, when the players started kneeling and the NFL owners were trying to figure out how can we shut this? What do you guys want? What can we do? And then it became an issue of the owners contributing some money toward this players fund where they can have money go out, to support the communities that they are from. And as part of that negotiation process with the ownership, there was supposed to be, I think, a united stance among the players that included, okay, you're going to let, Cap come play and our other dude.
Yeah, no, it was Eric Reed.
Eric Reed, thank you. This was before he was playing again, but they were, that was supposed to be the stance. But I think Malcolm Jenkins and some others I think they felt like they sold him out because they ended up agreeing to the sum of money that the owners would put towards this players fund. So anyway, I was just making the point that the players were kind of at odds a little bit too as to how to react to the kneeling and the blackballing of Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reed at the time. But it would have been nice, is my only point, if the players actually spoke up in defense of the girls, if they could appreciate how much it took for her to stick her neck out like that. It would have been Maybe it happened privately. Who knows? I mean, she's obviously.
Who knows? I mean, did the media give the player an opportunity? Did they ever ask the question like, hey, what do you think about young lady Kayla's, taking a knee? I don't know if there was even those questions out there to even give them a chance to make a comment about it because no one really came out.
They got a Twitter account though.
I'm old. I don't look at Twitter. I don't know what's going on.
They could have done something.
Me personally, I think it just has a lot to do with the fact that it happened a year after. I think for a while there, teams were scrambling and trying to figure out how to handle that situation, what rules to have, like rules of engagement. They probably had no idea when this was happening and trying to scramble and figure it out. I think now that it's a year later, they probably have they probably added it. Yeah, they added it probably to their rule book, their handbook, whatever you want to call it.
So you think it's old news? You think she missed the wave of it?
I don't think it was old news. I think teams were just better prepared on how to handle that situation.
They got their Olivia
and how to nip it in the bud.
Handle the PR, but and squash it and make it go away.
I think after that, every team probably came up with how we're going to handle that situation, and so players are probably now told to just shut up and play, basically.
And you can even tell with the way they cover the national anthem now on TV. It's rarely, they're just not, they know, they all, I'm sure, just have their own direction around. We're not even going to show the players at all. It's not going to be on camera anymore. It's
just the ratings.
Yeah.
The NFL is probably all about their money, all about ratings.
Yeah. I think there were some people who were not watching the NFL because they actually supported Colin and Kaepernick. They act like it was only the people who opposed people kneeling for the anthem that weren't watching the game anymore, but I don't know how substantial those numbers are. You'll never know based on just ratings, right? But why people weren't watching. But it's sad because her voice is, until she speaks up, probably when she's not associated with the team anymore, is when she'll probably have the freedom to say where her mind was at. And it'll be even more after the fact, to your point. So we're still rooting for Kayla. We hope she makes the team. We hope that if that's what she desires, and we hope that she has the opportunity at some point to give voice to what she did and why. And we'll just have to keep people posted, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys sign NDAs when you were on the team? Non-disclosure agreements? Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of teams do have their cheerleaders sign stuff that says basically don't talk.
Well, there's things like there's publicity provisions, and we'd have to pull out our rule book. It wasn't like you can't talk, but a lot of things that we, in terms of media appearances or just speaking with the media, had to be approved.
Right.
Like the act of doing it, not so much like censored in terms of what you say. But I don't know that
it kind of was though. Even though we didn't sign anything, it was highly encouraged to be like, oh, I don't know much about that topic, like play dumb. And be like, I don't know much about that, but I'm going to learn, or that was told to us quite a few times.
I was a rule breaker, so I don't know that I abided by that rule very much.
You did get in trouble a few times.
I did, actually. Damn, you're right. My whole rookie year, I was just like always called into the office, so to speak. But I took, my take was just that I'm not a dumb cheerleader. Nobody is. And so I'm not going to act like I don't have a brain. If we're out in the community and we're like, there to support whatever. We're in a school and we're talking to kids, and we're not going to just sit there and shake our pom-poms the whole entire time. Like, we have a voice, and sometimes it got me in trouble. But that's why we have podcasts now.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Yep.
We're warming up to the biggies. Male cheerleaders in the NFL. What do you think? Okay, clearly you guys don't even pay attention to the cheerleaders enough, right? Unless you know somebody.
So it doesn't matter.
To the win, to the guys. No, but what do you think about that? Do you want to see co-ed, or do you care to see or have an opinion on co-ed NFL cheerleaders?
I would, personally speaking. I think it's really awesome that they're going to have them, and that they already have. Is it 2 or 3?
3.
3. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really cool that they're including them. I really like listening to your guys' podcast on it last season when you were talking about like the calendars and how they would do that. I was like, well, that's kind of intriguing.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how they would kind of implement that in, but
we have to buy them. We're poor. Help us. We're poor.
Donate here.
Will do for sure. But no, I think it's really good that they're including them because everyone. It should just be all about inclusivity at this point.
Yeah, agreed. And it sounds like, between the NBA squads that tend to be a little bit more co-ed with the dance teams, I think it would be interesting if we move that direction in the NFL too. But it was great that the Rams had 2 guys as opposed to just one. because it may have been easier to include them in more things instead of just the one cheerleader on the Saints. But what do you guys think?
I don't have any issue with it. I think it's awesome. It's showing progress in our society. I think it kind of raises, like you said, to your point, Andrew, how do you include them? How do you, like you said in your podcast, what do they wear? Like what uniform? Do they wear the same uniform as the girls, or do we like come up with something else? So that stuff, that stuff was interesting. You know, you look at traditional like college, you know, they do a lot of the, what do they call it, stunts and like tumbling and stuff. So I personally, I think that would be more entertaining to watch. Not that they have to include that, but I think like you look at like a team like UW here in Seattle. They have a dance team that just strictly does choreography, and then they have like their other, I don't know what they call it, but they have another team that does like stunts and tumbling. So I think that'd be cool to have at NFL games, to watch that. Not that the guys have to do that kind of choreography, but to have them included in that aspect, I think would be cool to watch.
There is one team that's like that. That's the Baltimore Ravens, where they have like,
their cheerleaders are like classic cheerleaders where they do the lifts and everything.
Yeah.
I think you could also change the choreography too. You know, you look at what moves and combinations that guys can do with girls that you couldn't do all ladies necessarily. So I think it'd be cool.
Okay.
I agree with Anthony. I think you could diversify the routines a lot. Obviously there's no reason to not let guys be on a cheer team. But then it raises the question, like, what becomes the body image standard for men?
Yeah.
Because for women, it's very strict. You know, they tell you have to be, you know, a certain self, right?
Right.
Well, for men, I feel like the standard is so much wider. Because, you know, there are people who are viewed as really attractive and they're skinny, and then there are dudes who are really attractive who are like buffed out. And now we're
dad bods.
Dad bods, exactly.
That's the thing.
We've moved all the way up the spectrum. But there's never
been a mom bod, right?
Exactly. So, you know, I've been watching The Office a lot lately, and, you know, when Tam has her baby, she gets made fun of because she's got her post-baby bod, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like if you were a cheerleader, a female cheerleader, and you had a mom bod, you would probably not make the team, right?
True.
And then that's not my rule. But, you know, I'd be lying if I said I'm not surprised by it.
That's why Lee, you know, that's kind of, we perpetuated that, but that's why Lee was so amazing, because she bounced right back, right?
Yeah.
But would they have accepted her back on the team for a fourth year, not a fourth child, you know, if she kind of came back a little thicker or something?
Yeah.
No, probably not.
Well, I mean, to your point about the bodies for guys, though, like, I mean, when I think of, I went to Georgetown and I cheered on a co-ed team and hated stunting and hated being thrown up in the air, and
you do the splits in the front, right?
Oh my God, I just would tumble my butt off because I did not want to be thrown around and dropped. Okay, but my partner back then was the biggest guy. Like, he was not in shape, but hella strong, and just could throw people up. I mean, he could just sit your feet right here and on his chest. Like, he was huge. But you would think that there should be some fitness standards for the guys too. You know what I mean? Like, if they make the team, they should have to be in shape too.
Well, yeah, but again, it depends on what kind of thing you're asking your team to do. Like, if they're, I don't know what the men cheerleaders did in the NFL, what kind of squads Los Angeles and New Orleans were fielding, but, you know, yeah, you'd want, I guess, the fitness to be functional. It's, you know, what are you asking them to do?
Well, dancing during a game requires you to be in decent shape, and if they're dancing like the girls, it's not just, oh, when we need you for a stunt, you do it. It's like an active role for the 4 hours of a football game. So I would think that they'd have to be in decent shape. And I think the Baltimore Ravens, just from a glance, they look like they're all in shape, but to your point, I mean, there's a lot of different types of bodies, and they can probably get away with a lot more. They're not wearing crop top sweaters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think from a fair perspective, if there's such like a heightened awareness of how the women should look, the same thing should be for the guys.
Same thing.
Again, yeah, but you know how you define that, you know, you got this prototypical, you know, beauty standard for women. How do you define that for men in the same fashion?
Same way with like wrestling. I feel like if you guys have to spit in a cup to make sure you're a certain size, it should be expected of the men too.
Mm. My job.
Saucy take.
Yeah. But you know, they should have, not every woman is required to have a six-pack, but I would just say they'd have to be toned, right? They'd have to be like fit.
But could you have like a bodybuilder fit? where they can't.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're saying.
Like they can't even clap above their head because their biceps are so big, or like a lean athletic dancer. Because those three that we're talking about, they're dancers. They're very lean. They're dancers, professionally trained, and all that good stuff. So their bodies reflect that. But yeah, what if some bodybuilder came up and was like, I can do this. I can do a triple turn.
I see, like in my head, I envision them having that lean body type.
Okay,
I think it's different if you're casting, like to his point, if you're casting for a stunt team or if you're casting for a dancer. Because most professional dancers usually have a particular type of body type. You can't be a great dancer and be 300 pounds most of the time. I mean, it just...
Did you see that YouTube video? What was that
no.
video? There was a video. It's a whole group of, I forget what they call themselves. We'll find the link and put it below.
Yes.
Hella curvaceous, big girls.
Getting it,
traveling around the world. Plus size beyond. And they were all doing choreography and dancing, and I was amazed.
Do you think that they would have made a cheers team?
No, not based on the uniforms that they're wearing. And so, when we talk about like the changes in uniforms that they're making to like cover us up like we're back in the Lord knows what decade,
so
maybe they could wear those. I don't know. But
my question to you is, without naming names, obviously, because you don't want to incriminate yourself here, do you feel like there's been someone who made the Sea Gals that didn't dance as well as she should have, but she looked so good for the part that she made the team?
Yeah, for sure.
I know there have been.
Okay. I would agree to that statement, but there's also the opposite.
Girls that dance great but don't look that good.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's more often that.
Or political, too, where you're like, okay, she's just obviously your favorite.
Right.
She doesn't really do anything. She's kind of lazy.
I think there have been a lot of great dancers that didn't have the look. More than the other way around, where they had, because, you can have like a squad of 30 some odd women, but if there's really somebody that just cannot dance or can't keep up, it sticks out too much, but you can kind of work in the opposite a little bit better. Yeah. Highlight. Oh my God.
I think we're kind of segueing into our fourth question, which is, what should be the standard for appearance and body image of pro cheerleaders? So we're kind of in it.
Whew.
For women now, since we did it
Heavy
the
question.
male body.
Yeah.
This is gonna be the hot take for me. No, it's gonna be bad when it comes out of my mouth. But
hot and ready.
Do you want more attention or less? Because you're going to get more attention if you fit a certain mold. And
but we got some. Okay, so back to the point of earlier, like how much you pay attention. A lot of these squads are smoking hot women, like banging bodies, smoking hot face, and they're also dancing their asses off, and nobody's watching. So, like, do they need to be naked? Or what will make you guys do it?
I've watched people who watch football games, and sometimes watching people is as much fun as watching the game. When the cheerleaders are panned over for like 3 seconds, they go, whoa. Mm-hmm. If you lose that factor, you're going to lose even more attention, right?
Yeah.
But she could be so busted that it's like, dang! Everyone's looking and like, oh no!
But maybe that would draw more intrigue. To be like, damn, what can she do on the dance floor?
Yeah, maybe.
So I'm just saying that the margin is thin enough that I think that you don't want to lose your audience if you feel like it's not as big as it should be as it is.
I have a different take. I got frustrated with the molds that all you girls had to fit.
Describe that mold.
5'4", blonde, blue-eyed, thick, with no hips.
So you like a more junk in the trunk look.
I mean,
what if Kim Kardashian made the team? Do you think that would be a distraction?
Here's my issue. So obviously there's a lot of different body types. I think there's a lot of different body types that can be considered in shape or close to being in shape, or everybody's in shape is different. And from an insider's perspective, knowing what you had to go through, having your weight only be able to be in this 6 pound range,
3 pound,
3 pound range, and the things you had to go through to try to hit that were ridiculous. And I think, I would consider you in shape all the time. Aww. And, I just think it's unfair. And I think just because it shouldn't be about your weight. It should be about how you look and how you feel. And it wasn't always like that. But to kind of expand on that, though, I think a lot of different people like a lot of different body types, and not to be like racist, but a lot of the girls that were on the team were white. There's a lot of white girls, and there's a lot of blonde girls. So you don't see, Mhkeeba, I'm sure you notice it. You don't see a lot of black girls. You don't see a lot of Asian girls. You don't see a lot of Latin chicks. You don't see Pacific Islanders. And at least in art, it should be representative of the community and what we have in the Pacific Northwest or wherever your team's at, and we don't. And so for me, that was really frustrating. But also, it was. It is. It's just like, why, like, it just doesn't represent our community. And I think a lot of different people find different body types attractive. Not saying, if you can't dance or you're not in shape for yourself, or you don't have, there needs to be some standard for a look, and you have to be, well groomed and take care of yourself. And
can't be busted.
And represent yourself in the community. Brush your teeth, put on deodorant, brush your hair. Do your makeup. Like, that makes sense, having a team look and being able to, wear your uniform. But, to be told, oh, you have an extra role or you actually have hips and a booty, so you can't be on the team. Like, that, to me, was just stupid.
Anthony, in Atlanta?
Atlanta agrees wholeheartedly. From the stands, probably doesn't make any difference if there's like a 10 to 20 pound range, to be honest. Just can you make the moves? I'll be honest. If I'm going to be there watching you, I want to make sure that, you're technically proficient. You could do your job. And if you could do your job at this weight and this body type, you can do it. And like my man said a second ago, there is many a different body type, and more than likely all those body types are appreciated by men.
Would you appreciate the different body types in the current uniforms, right? Because if we're talking about like, ooh, I want to see hips and whatever you might want to see, or big, I curse, whatever. But like some uniforms just aren't as complimentary to that kind of a shape, right? So to me, maybe that's the question of what uniform. Is there a uniform that can look great on everybody? But like, to your point, if there's, Kim Kardashian out there wearing the Seagull uniform, for example, it just wouldn't even look good, at all, actually, I don't think. But, it's just because it wouldn't actually complement her shape in any real true way. The uniforms might even be just for a certain body type in mind, and maybe that's the problem, because, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. I just think that they should make the uniform to fit the body. And I feel like, if anything, they really just need to do that so that there's more, again, inclusivity, because that would bring a better awareness to the squad, I feel like. I remember listening to the episode where you talked in the Let's Get Physical, like hearing you talk about how you had to eat, how all you would eat was just like tuna and lettuce. And
the bitch ass salad diet?
Yeah, that's not okay. And everything that you guys had to put yourselves through, I was absolutely shocked. What I will say is that I really admire what you guys did to get yourselves to that weight, because it just shows your passion with it. So just knowing how much you love what you do with this, to be able to put yourself through that, I think is amazing, and I applaud that. And I really love that. But I think, when we think about unhealthy expectations of how women should look, there should be better representation, because that will make women and, some men feel better about themselves, that they see themselves and that they're included.
Right.
So make it better.
I don't want to have the last word on this, so let me jump back in here. Because I feel like I said everything I said, and then everybody's on the other. I don't disagree with you.
Oh, yeah.
At all. I agree. I think that I'm with Anthony on this one, where if they're technically proficient and you can do your moves, like, good for you. That's what you should be doing, no matter what your weight is.
I have a question, though. Okay, let's say she's wearing a two-piece, her stomach's out, it's very jiggly, but she nailed like a quadruple turn. Are you going to be looking at the stomach whipping around after her, or the double, triple, quadruple turn?
I'd probably been like, damn, big girl got moves.
That's my only question.
Okay, so to that point, I think, why do you watch football? Why would you watch cheerleaders? For entertainment, right?
Right.
So it should be more about, is she entertaining? Do I want to watch her? Does she smile? Does she capture my attention, right? That's one of the biggest things at tryouts is, she may not look the prettiest, but is she captivating? Is she fun to watch?
Yeah.
Are you entertained? Confidence? Are you entertained? That's what should matter. And I think, to your point, Andrew, if more people were, like, when you watch commercials, right, you see these 6 feet tall, not even 100-pound women modeling, right? Mm-hmm. If people, and women have an opinion about that. They feel like that's ideal. That's what I need to get to. And that's unrealistic. So I think if cheerleading was just one other way to show society different types of women that are acceptable and beautiful. I mean, think about everything you two do in the community, right? You're out there, you're representing the team, you're, kind of just out there, right? If they show that to society, I think that would go a long way, because then people will be like, wow, she's beautiful and great at dancing and great in the community and representing the team. And then
a little thick.
Yeah,
but
that could be sexy too.
Yeah, and I feel like that would take away. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
But I just feel like that would take away some of the backlash that you guys get, because even reading some of the comments that people put on your guys' page of how, women are always just objectified. Sorry, my personal opinion. I feel like sometimes they say that because they're insecure about themselves,
I agree with that.
And they want to be able to, be like that. Maybe they can't, and we should have more representation to show you are too. You don't have to feel like that.
Well, I feel like it comes down to being contractually obligated, and it sucks. I feel like that's where we need to focus the mind on changing, because I feel like we're going to keep on overarching to the society concept. Society says we should be inclusive of everybody, but the team hires cheerleaders to portray an image, and then you sign your contract to be a representative of a team. And what they have in those provisions is what they want you to be. And if you sign it, you've agreed to it. Now, as soon as you change that, I think that's when you get the power. I know it's not just like, hey, we want to change this, and then it's going to change. That's not how it works. I'm very aware of that.
Right.
But until, as a group, the women who are supposed to represent these teams come to a consensus that they're not going to do that anymore, it's going to be the pervasive train of thought.
Right, and agreed. I mean, I think, what we're hoping with the podcast and just other things that are happening in our space, that there will get some momentum for the potential and for change if we all kind of find a way to band together. There's not like a Cheerleaders Association of America or something, or a union where we can all kind of discuss issues together collectively and say, how is it down in Kansas City? How are you treated? And then we can find out in Miami what they do. And so, each team will be different. I think collectively we obviously have a stronger voice. But I think, to the point about the contract, I think, the bitch ass salad diet came into effect because A, I was trying to make the team, and B, whatever I had to do to maintain weight during the season was just my way of adhering to the contract, if you will. But, there's a complete imbalance of power, right? Because when I think of people like Rihanna and Beyonce, that, Rihanna did a whole fashion show that had all different, a pregnant chick model walking around in her fashion show, so many different body types, and she just did it boldly. And, she's a woman calling the shots how she wants to call it. And Beyonce had backup dancers that were some big girls, and they killed it. And it really just depends on who's making the decisions. And, something that I pointed out, I don't remember what episode, but it's just, I really am curious how much power the female directors, by and large, the directors are women, but how much power they really do have to change what that image looks like.
We were talking about that.
And I don't know that maybe there is some man upstairs or something that's saying, no, I want them to be hot, and they're not hot enough unless they're looking this. I don't know how it's getting set, but I think either the directors need to realize what they can collectively do to change that, and we do see some changes going on, or figure out really where the power lies.
Don't they have a director's summit?
They do.
Where they get together. I remember the old director had some.
Yeah, they do have a cheerleading director's summit. I don't know what they discussed there.
Well,
but go ahead.
What's interesting too? You mentioned the contract. Even the NFL players have contracts about
and
their
weight. Oh, yeah,
their I don't know, like muscle dimensions or anything like that, but
body fat,
all that stuff. It's like very interesting. You mentioned the power. Like both the players and the cheerleaders don't have as much power as they'd like.
We talked about
Eddie
Lacy.
Eddie Lacy was struggling, man.
Right. He was like, I'm having a hard time with this. I just want to eat, Panda Express.
He did.
Yeah, that stuff's good.
But it is good. It is a valid point, though, that, like, the players are held to certain standards as well. It's not to say, when we hear about the issues with women speaking up about these rules, it's just that they're a little unreasonable. Not a little. They're unreasonable most of the time. Like, if you're going to sit in the closet and make people think about what they could have done to work out. Did you hear that? In the article about an NBA cheerleader. This is the article about the NBA dancers and the issues that they were raising. But this girl did not make weight, and she was sent to a closet,
Timeout closet.
basically timeout closet, to think about, had she done everything that she could to get to the weight? Like, what more could you have
We
done?
were told that. Remember? You'd get on the scale and go gunk gunk and like go way up, and then our director would be like, "So did you do everything that you possibly could have done?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I spit in the cup," like everything.
Right.
But also, we were always told to be like untouchable and almost like unrealistic. And our director would always be like, "If I could do it, you can do it." And
let's see you do it. Sorry, but
Yeah.
let's see you do it.
Well, because the
she did
expectation itself was ridiculous. That from a Tuesday to a Thursday that you can make some radical 5 pound change in your body. But that was the expectation. Like, all it takes is just some extra gym time. You're thinking, okay, I got to go to work in the morning. I can't work out at work. There's like 8 hours if I'm supposed to sleep. Like, when are you doing this? Like a miraculous weight loss in 2 days type of thing. But it's the expectations, to someone's point, I don't remember who now, just that they're way out of whack. Like, they're just out of whack. And so the directors could decide, or they can discuss with their legal counsel, like, what would be an appropriate, policy to have that we could enforce fairly, because some people, I think it's just discretion, but it was very subjective and probably ill-informed. Like we talk about this all the time. Like, why couldn't we have, like, the trainers or the nutritionists that the players use and have access to? And I think they tried that one year. He gave a speech. We were all hungry, too hungry to remember, because we were supposed to get weighed that night. Oh, my God. Talk about a practice. Okay, sorry. The practice where they actually did, and I appreciated the sentiment and the thought behind bringing him into our practice to talk to us about healthy eating habits and
don't eat in your car. That's all he said. I was like, what am I supposed to do after practice?
Right. Eat in my car. No, but we were supposed to get weighed that night, so everybody was starving, right? And here comes this surprise meeting. Get there at 6 o'clock, and and he's like giving his spiel on healthier eating habits, and we were starving the whole time. It just fell on some deaf, hungry ears, and it just would have been nice if it was like, maybe something like that early on in the season, before you've established this weigh-in policy, like, or something that's a little bit more thought out. But they stopped weighing, apparently, at least for this team. I think they're trying. Yeah, they don't get weighed anymore.
Oh, step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to have a conversation about a number, but if you guys are saying, like, if you see jiggling going on, like, really, you're not gonna be tripping?
Nope.
No, what?
Okay.
Look, if a big girl's kicking and doing splits and doing turns, like what am I gonna do? Ask her out on a date? Like, I don't have access to these people anyways. I want to see a big girl move.
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah. Cool. And I think earlier we were talking about too, like, how much power do the directors really have? Who's writing the handbook? Who's making the rules? Can she edit it if she wanted to?
Because Brittany said, you got a talk from a nutritionist who's a man. Yeah, and I understand where you're coming from. It's you don't want to have some man talking to the women who might not have the experience. He doesn't know what the struggle is for them. But if the director's a woman and she signs off on this handbook that you guys have to abide by, technically, aren't you getting your rules from a woman who's saying these are the standards you have to be held to?
That's my concern. That when you hear about the rules and how people are mistreated throughout NFL, NBA, by and large, it's female directors doing this to, like, the woman from the Houston Texans that, like, duct taped some chick's back fat or whatever the heck. She literally pulled her skin with duct tape to make her look smoother.
Better silhouette, she said.
Yeah, so she literally.
What?
Yes, for real. There's a lawsuit.
Oh. Or they'll make them wear their two-piece and, like, jump, and if anything jiggles, they have to remove it.
Sororities get shut down for stuff like that.
I mean,
that's no joke.
It's viewed as a form of hazing, but it's women is my point, and so I think by and large across both leagues, there should be, not necessarily an overhaul, but leadership changes, right? Because maybe they do have more power to make better decisions and realize that doing something like that is not funny. Doing it in front of the whole team in the locker room, because that's how it went down. I mean, that's just not acceptable, and I don't know what cheerleading was way back in the day with, like, women, who were doing it in the 70s and not 70s, but like 80s and 90s and what they experienced. But clearly this was just kind of like the way of the world, and everybody just went along with it because that's just what you did. And, some of the women that used to cheer end up becoming directors, and so they're probably just perpetuating whatever was acceptable.
Well, I think it's changed too. I would think that, okay, no, I wouldn't think. I can tell you that women now are much more attractive than they were in the past. Not to say that every woman in the past is uglier than every woman in the present.
Right.
But the standards changed, and I think that you have a wider group of people to choose from. You have a more diverse group of people to choose from, and I think you can get more people to fit your mold as it's changed over time, too. Because I've seen pictures of cheerleaders, like, in college from, like, the 50s, and you're like, that is not what I would expect today at all.
Fair enough. Anthony, do you have something to join?
No, I'll stick by it. If you can do it technically proficient, if you can make it work, you can make it work. I'm sticking by that.
I think to your point, too, it's like when you have auditions and you're seeing this variety of women that show up, which hopefully will think, oh, I see myself in these women out there. I could be on that team. And they show up to these auditions that they look at their criteria and the way that they judge, and they're looking for things like, how fun you are to watch, how talented you are, and check that box,
Okay, but let's be real.
Yeah, truth behind the palms.
Truth behind the palms. We've looked at other teams' videos and been like, that one girl's very distracting because she doesn't match in terms of her body type. Let's say she's like significantly shorter and maybe a little bit wider or whatever. It's just, honestly, it's a distraction to the cohesive look of the performance.
So one out of how many? Like you're saying, like you see one person out of everyone. But if you have more people that look like that, then it'll be less of a distraction.
Diversify the group.
That's true.
Okay.
That's the
And the uniforms fit their bodies. Because I think between those two things, like if they actually like form to your body in a way that complements what you're working with, I think that will make a difference as well. Because it could just be like that just isn't a good look for her body type. There's dresses that are designed based on people's body types, lay line and paired bodies and all kinds of stuff. So why can't they do that for our uniforms to at least tailor it a little bit?
Anthony and I were talking about this before we came on, and the amount of money that is dedicated to cheerleading, as far as money that comes into the team and then is dispersed throughout,
I heard we don't get a lot.
Is a pittance. So you're telling me that they could afford it. They could afford to make the uniforms tailored to each girl's needs to fit whatever look they want to go for. I don't think that that's unreasonable because the NFL is a nonprofit, but the commissioner makes, $30 million a year? I think they got some pennies to spare.
That's not as well. Just a little touch.
Yep.
Well, and I mean, to build on that with the cheerleaders' pay, what would you say? I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard the debates about, the cheerleaders have not gotten paid at all for their time, but would you say minimum wage is fair for women that are cheerleaders in the pro leagues? Or would you say?
I would say minimum wage if you get benefits, because I think you're doing something where you could potentially get hurt.
We do all the time.
So
we do.
It's a physical activity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that minimum wage is the fairest, but it would be a step in the right direction to say minimum wage for every hour that you're working, plus you get benefits, because then the unknown is covered. Yeah. And you wouldn't quit your job to be a cheerleader full time, would you?
No.
Okay. So I think that's reasonable to expect that most girls would feel the same way.
Yeah.
And then that wouldn't be their primary source of income. It'd be something that they're doing as a passion or a hobby, but they're getting paid for it and they get, benefits.
To that too, I'd say at least for the Seagulls, I mean, you guys get quite a few sponsorships that provide a lot of benefits too. So I think to Nate's point, if you included in those benefits, the hair, the makeup, the tanning, the clothing, all those discounts plus tickets, I think that would be fair. But, I don't know if you mentioned in previous podcasts, but there's a lot of teams that aren't even getting minimum wage for the entire season when you divide it up. I'm sure you mentioned that. Right. Teams are getting sued because they're not even paying minimum wage.
Yeah.
That is, I don't even know how that's legal, so.
It's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
That's why they're winning in court.
Yeah. I should have pulled up examples because this is such a healthy conversation. Anthony, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, the money issue is how much cheerleaders get paid is an interesting question because, then you have to really wrestle with, again, what does the team perceive the value of the program to be? Obviously everyone wants to get paid top dollar for their talents, but, the man at the top, and again, you're dealing with a bunch of men here. They're just thinking about these cheerleaders or nothing but, perhaps thinking about them more as bodies on the side of the field. They don't want to pay them as much. And that's an unfortunate situation, for someone who may, bring more value to the the organization that they give it credit for. So it's almost like a whole holistic way you have to look at it to determine what's the value of the program, to determine what we need to do to properly compensate the program. And that's just a tough question. It's something that, each team really should handle and really look at carefully, and really say, we value you women as part of the organization. We really want you to be comfortable and able to do certain things.
Well, when I think about, certain intangible thinking of like a balance sheet or whatever, there's certain types of assets that you can't really put a dollar. I mean, you can, but it's not something that's as concrete. So if you think about brand value, right? What does it mean? What does the Seahawks or whatever team's brand actually, if you were to try to value that in the community, like what is that dollar amount? And each time that we're out in the community doing these appearances and building that goodwill with their fan base so that they associate some positive sentiment with that brand and they want to spend money on an outfit or a game ticket or whatever, there are things that it's really hard to quantify, but that's really, if I were a director, what I would argue in terms of building that business case as to why we actually bring money into the organization. It's not something that's like, oh, we sell 80 million calendars. It's going to be, well, everything that you do to value your mark, your brand, that's something that we contribute to on a daily basis. You're never going to get all your athletes to go to appearances and interact with the community, okay? So let's be real. You're going to get us, because that's what we would do. Mm-hmm. We're doing the appearances that the guys won't do, can't do, whatever. I mean, they have one day off, right? They're Tuesday. So, I mean, there's an argument to try to build that case as to what value that we do bring. So it's not just so focused on, well, all you do is dance on the sidelines, because clearly we don't. And it pissed me off, like every time that, and I'm getting feisty again, every time the NFL teams, NBA teams, they have a very canned response whenever these articles come out and they're speaking to the value of our programs, and they say, well, they're a valued member of our community and they do so much and they're ambassadors and this, but you won't put an actual respectable dollar amount to, what these women are worth in terms of like paying them more than minimum wage, because really it's a question, how do we get from minimum wage to something that's actually representative of the true value that you place on them? And let's get real about it, and it won't necessarily be this clean figure of like, income that was brought into the organization, but you can at least make the argument that, hey, they're contributing to that goodwill, and that's an intangible benefit.
I would be curious to see how much, say, the mascot gets. How much do other
if this was vodka, I would just slam it.
How much
more
do
than us.
Yeah,
more
how
than
much
us.
do low-tiered staff member of the Seahawks get paid? Say like
the guy throwing footballs around.
The guy throwing footballs. Or the flag runner, or
the guy who holds the cords behind the cameraman.
Oh yeah.
Or
that's
like
an NFL employee.
Yeah.
I mean, a low-level trainer, or how much do other professional dancers get paid? I'd be curious to see those statistics and compare.
And we're like bickering over whether people get paid minimum wage here. Like we're talking about people not getting minimum. The word minimum, it's funny because it has a definition, like nothing below it, right? But you're working, and you're not getting what is supposed to be the very bottom, the very floor, right? Yeah. Even at a federal level. We're not even talking about, Seattle being...
I know, higher than the federal minimum wage, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and there's definitely room for it, like to your point. I mean, this is $1 billion industry, so I don't see that there should really be a question of how they couldn't carve out a little bit more of that pie.
They can afford it.
Isn't your employer not the Seahawks?
It's a separate legal entity, but it is the Seahawks. It's just like their way that they...
The Seahawks pay them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even if it's subcontracted out, the Seahawks have to pay them.
But I think even that point is interesting.
The more separation you have between the team
and how they're not responsible.
Exactly. Yeah. The organization that's making the final payment, the more hoops you have to jump through.
Right.
And the less responsibility the league has to take care of its employees, quote unquote.
And they always defer to that. Like each team has its own way of doing it. I mean, the Buffalo Bills cheerleaders, when they had them, they were actually subcontracted out through an entertainment company. And so they kind of were able to try to distance themselves. Their litigation still caught up, and it's like several years old because of, issues like that where they're trying to, like you said, distance themselves from a legal perspective. I mean, what I would say is like having done internships in the sports industry when I was in college, I mean, and even for Seahawks employees, to your point, Anthony, like the pull and the attraction is you're working for a major sports team. So the pay is not really great even for the employees because they're like, you're you're honored to have a job here. There's plenty of people who would scream to get the jobs, climb to the door to get the job. So overall, unless you're probably at the higher levels within the organization, you're probably making some chump change, to be honest. Like, I don't know that it's like, oh, they got it made in the shade, because they know that they can the demand is there. They can easily replace people just because people will die to have that
Same
job.
with the cheerleaders.
And same with the cheerleaders, yeah.
That's what I argue too. It's like if they start paying the cheerleaders more talent's going to come through, and I can't make the team.
Oh my gosh.
Well, to talk to your point about putting a dollar value on a cheerleader, you could make the same argument as to whether your compensation might be that you're in a calendar. I haven't been featured in a calendar yet, but look, I haven't finished my firefighter training, But you've been on TV,
right?
I've never been on TV yet. But what I'm saying is, like, there are things that you do and that you've experienced that I haven't, probably won't, but they could make that argument. There are other things to consider, and they would probably, the league and the front office would probably make that argument too. You get to be an ambassador for a team that you're supposed to love, right? So that's just devil's advocate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's fair. And I think, everybody who's involved in this would have to question what they're really doing it for. If you're looking at exposure, that would be something, and maybe that's enough for you and why you would do it. Opportunity to develop as a dancer, et cetera. Like, you have to kind of know what you're in it for. I never did it for the money. It would have been foolish to. But at the same time, I can easily see that there's plenty of space to carve out a little bit more for salaries. And salaries are for every company and organization probably their biggest, pain point, because that ends up being the biggest part of your operating expenses. And I get that, but to try to get away with not paying them at all, or just really thinking that the minimum wage is where you just stop the conversation is something that absolutely needs to change.
I think I'd like to talk about the athletes not necessarily standing up for the cheerleaders.
What do you think?
I think that it's foolish for us to look at athletes to be the moral right all the time. I think that we hold these people to a standard, and then when some of them don't hold up to that standard, we overlook it and we let them play and get paid millions of dollars, even though they may have done something heinous, because they bring money to the organization, right? Mm-hmm. But we're talking about whether a girl will be on the squad next year because she knelt during the national anthem. She did something relatively benign as far as damage caused to anybody. Not relatively benign, come on. She did nothing to harm anyone.
Right.
But without naming names, players have been abusive to their wives and girlfriends, some of them pregnant. Mm-hmm. And then we're touting them as pro bowlers who get millions of dollars. That seems relatively unfair. Mm-hmm. So while I would like to see the good guys stand up for the right thing, what if one of the bad guys does? Then you have a bad guy on your side, and while he might be saying the right things, it doesn't absolve his responsibility from everything else that he's done.
Yeah,
it becomes really murky.
Surviving R. Kelly.
Oh my God!
Yeah, exactly.
The elephant in the room. No, but
because who apologizes for who there? Are you saying, we want all the support we can get, but we don't stand by this guy because he beat his pregnant girlfriend up?
Yeah, that is true. What kind of support? Like, what would you do if somebody that isn't our favorite did some things in their past? We're like, I love the cheerleaders. Let's support them. Would you deny their support? Or that's a good question, Nate.
Double-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword. I guess I was looking at, when I think about, maybe I was thinking of the good ones that are already vocal and outspoken, like a LeBron James or something like that. When that NBA article came out, and it's just, these are women that you see and interact with every game that you go to in every city that you travel to. And if someone like that actually spoke using his platform, not an unsavory character, but I was definitely, it's not that I'm like trying to hold athletes to a higher standard, a moral standard. It's just anybody could have. I would have liked, it could have just been a no-name person, but just somebody that actually said, yo, that's messed up, would have been appreciated. If it was somebody who had a checkered past and just was just I mean, it probably like, I wouldn't glorify it, put it that way. If it was somebody that was just an asshole saying it, like, thanks, but it wouldn't be something that I'd be like, let's scream it from the rooftops that he supported us. But it should be somebody who's in a position to just bring truth to light. Like, say something, because saying nothing just to me says it's okay. Mm-hmm. You know, just like if we're going to talk about surviving R. Kelly, you know, people buying all his music and blowing my mind ever since the documentary came out. Like, it's just, what does that say to the women who have suffered his abuse?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, each player, I guarantee you, each player could give $1,000 of every paycheck to the cheer squad and make everybody's life and cheer squad a million times better, and a detriment to theirs at the most minimal cost, sure. Right? Because you're getting a guy who's making, you know, $300,000 in a game, kick off 1/3%. I mean, he's paying his manager 10%. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the responsibility of the player. That's the responsibility of the organization. If the organization wants to get money,
okay, so
it shouldn't be the player stepping in for what an organization chooses to spend its finances on. You know, when it comes down to it, the athletes, yeah, they're paid a really good chunk of money, but when it comes down to it, they're just employees also. Yeah. You know, they're just really well paid employees because they have the value that the organization is trying to extract. So
the topic being women not getting support. On these cheer teams not getting support, I think you would stop hearing most of the noise about cheerleaders being underrepresented, underpaid, you know, less supported. If that were the case, that the conversation would end. Right?
I agree with that, because there's plenty of players who will give, you know, like, I'm giving this check to this cause, or, you know, things like that. So,
well, the players request
that, but the organization doesn't. The player chooses to do that.
Right.
It kind of boosts people, their thoughts of that player too, and maybe it would change the organization. Like, oh my gosh, our players are giving money. Why don't we just not give them $1,000
to do it?
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about the players that request appearances from the cheerleaders for their own, you know, charities, for example, like they make appearance requests of the team to come and support their causes. So it's not that they don't recognize any value that we add to the equation. So, I mean, they shouldn't have to step in for the team to actually, like, do the right thing. But it would be an excellent example of, you know, it would have to be amplified, right, for people to know about it, but it would at least show that, hey, if you're not going to do what you need to do, and I have to step in to do it for you, and it somehow, you know, captures attention, and something would have to maybe influence change.
I 100% agree with Anthony that it's not their obligation, and it's not even, you know, I would expect it to not be on the forefront of their mind.
Right.
But a gesture like that could have a huge impact. Not that I would expect it to even. It seems like they would do other things first.
Yeah. But it would make a hell of a freaking splash. Could you imagine if somebody just literally wrote the check and was just like, you know what, I'm going to use my platform to say this is some bullshit, and here is X amount to the Cleveland Cavaliers dance team because I want to make sure that you guys are paid so that you can pay rent to live in Cleveland or whatever, and just made a statement. It just seems like it would go pretty far, I would think.
Just thinking about the moral compass in general, like, you see something isn't right, just try to do something, anything.
Anything.
You know.
Like you said, even tweet, that's free. Just say, like, I stand with the cheerleaders, do right by them. That's it.
I think it may come down to an awareness thing. Like,
you think they have no clue?
They have a clue.
They know.
I think they have.
They're banging the cheerleaders. They know. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I think, but again, it comes down to who you know. Like, we talk about the rules of engagement. Like, they're not really, there's a rule written that you're not supposed to mingle with players. So I'm not saying they're completely oblivious, but to your guys' point, like, how much is it on the forefront of their mind? And how, like, me personally, I just feel like there's not a whole lot of awareness, both with fans, with players, with society, about, like, the struggles. Like, that you're mentioning everything you're talking about in your podcast. I just think there's not a lot of awareness, and it's not brought to the forefront of, like, people's minds.
Well, hopefully they listen to it now.
Yeah.
You guys are
we should get a player on.
Maybe
We Them Boyz Part 2.
There you go.
There we go.
Can I come?
You guys are all welcome back.
Yeah. Well, I think that totally rounds out a wonderful, wonderful discussion. I can't think of anything that we've left out.
Mm-mm.
We have a session called Locker Talk, and we have this grandiose plan to ask you guys about like what you think about when you watch cheerleaders perform, but you don't freaking watch us. So
Yeah, I watch.
I never said I didn't watch.
So what really runs through your minds when you watch us perform? Because have you guys heard of cheer sex?
What? No? What?
I want to know.
No?
Sex sells, they say. What?
Sex with the
You
cheerleader.
guys don't know what cheer sex is? Okay, lean in. No, I'm just kidding. Anthony, do you know what cheer sex is?
I do not.
Okay.
Should I Google it? Urban Dictionary?
Dude, you're going to get the wrong results, bro.
No, so cheer sex is, okay, so if a girl's dancing, cheerleading.
Do I even know this definition?
I hope so. Have you never had cheer sex, Brittany?
You point someone out and you dance to them?
Yes.
Like just
Oh,
eye contact?
Yeah, eye
nice.
contact where it's like you're dancing and you're
Oh, I think I know this.
Oh, it'll
From
be
Bring It On,
reciprocal. I'll help you out.
Is this like a one-on-one dance battle? Or you're just vibing with the person
you see
you're
like
watching?
a hot guy in the stands, and so you're like, I'm gonna dance for you in this corner. Kind
It's
of thing.
like
I never did that. I promise.
Sure.
But that's cheer sex. Has any? Oh God,
No.
we should just shut up. The point is, I thought that maybe some of you would have experienced.
There
whether it
aren't
was
cute
high
guys in the
school-
close first rows. They're all old rich guys.
Oh, okay,
Think about that.
that's true.
I have bad eyes, so I can't see past row 12. Are you judging the choreography? Are you looking at their bodies? Are you looking at the diversity or lack thereof?
Is
like
there any dance
anything?
moves
Are you
where-
thinking I'm gonna go get another beer? Like what?
I don't think they were like looking. Exactly.
I think honestly, I'm like, I wish I had rhythm like that because
Okay.
I can't dance. So
Got it.
I
Super
look at
mixed
like,
bag.
please teach me your ways.
Do you enjoy the songs or like this is a weird song or think anything like that? Yeah, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like I said, I was so detached from it. I really was there to watch football game and get myself.
Anthony, you've
Stand
never.
by
Okay,
it.
hold please. I'm gonna have to. This is like the surface level. You've never been at a Falcons game close enough where you can see these girls up close and personal, and you size their little bodies up and so forth.
Oh
and so
yeah,
forth.
don't get it twisted. Yeah, I see a girl, I'm gonna size her up, and I really. It's
So what's running through your? So, but you're not. You're checking her out. So when you watch her dance, are you thinking things?
No, I've sized her up and said that's a pretty girl. She can move. She can do. She's obviously doing her routines, but yeah, I'll be right back to the football game.
You guys are boring. No, I'm just kidding.
I am boring. I'm sorry. I can't.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I tease you all the time. But that was locker talk. You guys don't have anything juicy to share?
No. I think it's a mixed bag. I think I'm looking, I'm like, nice. And then it's kind of like, yeah, you find a person that you think looks great doing their thing. And then you're watching. And then if something is glaringly, obviously wrong,
what is errors?
Well, yeah, I'm a horrible person. If I see someone mess up real bad, I'm gonna be like, I'll elbow bump them, whoever I'm with. I'll be like, she messed up bad.
Okay.
And look,
That's normal though.
that's true. But here's the thing, I wouldn't hold it against her. The next time I wouldn't be like, that's the girl that sucks at cheerleading. I'd be like, she messed up last time. Let's see if she's improved.
Okay.
And that's an honest, like, I'm a little weird, I'm a little quirky, but I don't think that's that weird. I think that there are other people who may not even think about it that do the same thing and would be like, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, he's right.
We're all a little judgy.
Yeah.
And it's human nature.
Exactly.
I was just curious, like, what runs through their minds. It didn't have to be sex related. I tend to talk about sex all the time, but.
Well, that was the first part. The nice. Yeah, I mean, obviously you wouldn't be dressed in a two-piece showing skin if there wasn't supposed to be a risque thought.
Oh.
Okay.
Mic drop.
Boom.
Well, having watched for what? 8 seasons, 6 with you on it. Thought a lot of things. I mean, I'll be honest, when you were on it, I watched you most of the time. But yeah, you think a lot of different things. I think, cool moves, you see some pretty cool stuff out there. After watching the choreography for a while, you're like, okay, I've seen that move 1,000 times. Hasn't changed year to year to year to year to year.
So true.
Some new uniforms came out. I think about the weird shoes now, no heel, looks weird.
You don't like those?
No. It
Who
looks
were
weird.
we talking to that everyone said they liked them?
Probably
I
easier to dance in.
think I commented on it on somebody that takes photographs of the girls.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you like the new boots? And he was like, I love them. And I was like, what? I'm not a fan either.
Don't like it. The action green leotard things. Side note, I was really excited when she was describing what it was going to be. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be so sexy. Like everyone's going to look hot. Then I saw them. If you guys haven't looked at it, Google it right now. Action green Seagal uniform. And just look at the pictures. It's a horrible uniform. It is not attractive. It's not flattering. I don't care how banging your body is. It is not flattering.
Wow, high five, Dave.
So, yeah.
I did not like it either. I felt very uncomfortable in it.
Yeah, I thought that. And then to Nate's point, I mean, yeah, you notice some glaring, skin things or when people mess up,
Okay. Do you notice any risque moves? I'm not trying to call them out, but the last game we were at, there was people were probably like, what are you talking about? But there was a 3-row formation, and these girls were basically turned to the back. They were bent over. Do you remember that?
No.
At the last game? And that was they held that pose forever, and they were in the skirts, and everyone's like, whoa,
Yeah, you saw a lot of.
Do you notice any of that where it's whoa, butt out?
So I have noticed some moves where it's okay, they're twerking right now, or they're bent over, making a face, So you do notice stuff like that. I noticed some weird things though, y'all are wearing the same exact uniform, and some girls their skirt will go up, and some's got their butts out, but others don't. So then as a dude, you're like, does she just have a bigger butt? Is that why it's out? Or is she wearing it different? Or got a different size? So and we can all probably agree, we think about weird stuff. Especially you.
Well, that's what we're trying to
just little stuff like that. I'm like,
that's what we're trying to get to. What do you guys really think about? Because it's not what we think you think about.
Yeah, or,
Or any uniform mishaps where the skirt's being pulled down and it's a little moon.
I'm too far to notice that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I never really saw that, but sometimes it'd be like, girl, is that uniform going to contain those titties? Because, you both have been with them girls, There's some well-endowed women, probably not anymore, but there was.
Yeah.
Not naming any names. But yeah, so you notice stuff like that.
No, because I even went to one game with you my year off, and we both went, whoa, and looked at each other. Because we were in Touchdown City, it was close and personal, and we were seeing some jiggle tests live.
And I'll see some dudes behind me, and they'll be like, whoa,
in a good way. Just
there's stuff like that.
I'm big into song selection, too. You would capture my attention to a much greater degree with, a banger out there. If you're bumping the newest good stuff, I'm gonna be more engaged.
Right. Popular things.
Another little thing, the cheesy cheer face.
So there's the cheer sex face, and then there's the eating air face.
Yes.
The cheesy.
I like that.
Man.
Yeah.
You
got it.
It's good for a moment, but if you keep doing it, you gotta do something else. God, that. I don't know. That's not my
thing. Can you please tell women how you feel about that face,
okay.
though? It's important.
This is my biggest one, though. Whenever they would turn the hype up crowd, dudes getting it on the field, we them boys, episode title, the players would be getting hyped, jumping up and down, and then the girls, y'all would just have to do the lame step clap. Man, I always would tell Brittany, I'd be like, if that came on, I would just break it. I would just break the rules.
We did.
And I would just.
We did, and we got yelled at.
Yeah, that's freestyle time.
Yeah.
We used to party, and we used to get a little slightly ratchet, but the director, it was so much fun. Anytime they played hip hop, and the guys would lose it, and we would just kind of do our own little thing.
You should be with the crowd, with the players, getting people hyped. Just a step clap isn't going to hype anybody up.
What they want.
Yeah.
Especially in a stadium like CenturyLink, man. That place would be popping.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, I think this has been such a dope episode. You guys, it took a little coaxing, but we got some juicy locker talk out of you guys.
Thank you guys so much. It was super fun.
Super informative. We seriously are going to have a little debrief on this because it was just so helpful to hear the guys' perspective and the questions you raised and the points that you guys made. This is what we envisioned. Well, what Brittany envisioned.
I appreciate you guys having us.
Yeah,
thank
you.
Fun to be.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for listening to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. Please subscribe, leave a comment, or review.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at Pro Cheerleading Podcast, and also on Twitter at Pro Cheer Podcast.
This is Brittany
and Mhkeeba. Until next time,
keep your eyes on the sidelines.